As a homemaker and mom, squeezing in time for art is a real struggle. I'm someone who finds joy in making small, deeply satisfying pieces over complex, big artworks. Even though these art sessions are short, they truly satisfy the soul.
Hello friends, my name is Zaneena Nabeel. I'm an artist, an art instructor and an author.
I focus on smaller pieces. This way I can finish them in one go without losing the connection with the artwork and the process.
Grab your supplies, cut your paper into small pieces and let's begin this journey.
And here's our first painting. It's a beautiful summer evening. Now first I will take you through the colors you will need. Then we can quickly start with the process. You will need 4 colors for this painting, which is Payne's Grey, Brown, then some yellow ochre and a yellowish orange. I will swatch the colors for you so that you have a better idea. I will start with the colors I'll be using for the sky. The first color is cadmium yellow orange. It's a beautiful yellowish orange. You can go with an orange or a yellow or a yellowish orange. So that's a color. If you don't have a similar color in your collection, you can simply add some vermilion to any of the yellow you have got and you can easily create a similar color. Okay, so this one is cadmium yellow orange from Shinhan. Now the next color you will need for this painting is brown. I'll be using permanent brown from Art Philosophy. If you have brown, go with that. Otherwise, you can just use burnt sienna. Here is the color. It is called permanent brown and it is from Art Philosophy. It is a very beautiful reddish brown. On the other hand, burnt sienna is more yellowish. But please don't worry if you don't have brown, just use burnt sienna instead. Okay, so that's our second color. Brown is a major color you will need for this painting. We will use that for the sky, for the mountain, as well as for the meadow. Okay, now the next color you will need is yellow ochre. We'll be using yellow ochre with the meadow along with brown and Payne's Grey. So on the top, we will use yellow ochre. Then towards the bottom, to make the color more darker, we will introduce brown and also some Payne's Grey. Now just in case if you don't have yellow ochre, you can easily create it. Add a bit of brown or burnt sienna with any of the warm yellows you have got, like gamboge yellow or primary yellow or Indian yellow. So just add a bit of burnt sienna with any of those colors. Okay, so that was yellow ochre. Now I'm going to go with the final color, which is Payne's Grey. We'll be using Payne's Grey mostly to add the deeper tones for the meadow as well as onto the mountain. If you have a darker brown in your collection, you can use it directly. In that case, you don't need to mix and create a darker brown. Okay, so just use it directly for the mountain as well as for the meadow. We're not going to use Payne's Grey as it is. We'll be mixing that with brown to create a darker version. Okay, so that is our last color. We only need 4 colors for this painting. Cadmium yellow orange, brown, yellow ochre and Payne's Grey. If you don't have the exact same colors, that's not a problem. Just go with the colors you have with you, which is nearly similar. Okay, so let's start by adding the sketch. We need to add the horizon line and also a mountain in the background. That's all we need to add. So I'm going to place my horizon line a little below the center of the paper, right there. Next, I'm going to add a very simple mountain. You can go with any shape that you prefer. It doesn't need to be the exact same way. Okay, so that's my sketch. We have a mountain and the horizon line. That's all. Now we're going to start with the sky. And then we will paint the meadow and finally the mountain. Okay, so let's start. Now these are the 2 colors I'm going to use for the sky, which is permanent brown and cadmium yellow orange. I will take out some paint onto my palette. Okay, so if you don't have the same colors, you can go with any color which is nearly similar. It can be an orange or yellow, and instead of brown, you can also use burnt sienna. So I have the 2 colors ready on my palette. Now I'm starting by applying a coat of water onto the sky. a nice gentle coat of water. I'm adding the water along the outline. If you can, try to leave the mountain as it is. But if you accidentally add a little water, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, so my sky is evenly wet. Now to apply the paint, I'm gonna go with a round brush. Before you start, make sure your brush is clean. Now the first color I'm gonna pick is cadmium yellow orange. This one is a yellowish orange. You can go with permanent yellow orange or any similar color. Or you can simply add some scarlet or vermilion with a bit of yellow, and you can easily create a similar color. Now I'm starting to apply the paint. It's a medium tone, and I'm assuming the sun to be over here, which means when I'm about to reach that area, I have to make the color lighter. So right now I'm using a medium tone. Now I'm picking some water, dabbing it on a paper towel, and over here I'm making the color slightly lighter. See that? Now for the remaining area, we can apply a medium tone. Only above the mountain where we are placing the sun, we have to make the color a bit lighter. The rest can be medium tone or darker tone. That's totally fine. Okay. Now I'm picking more yellowish orange and I'm adding that on the top. Okay, so that is cadmium yellow orange. Next we can go with brown. So I'm gonna clean my brush, and then I'm right away switching to permanent brown. This one is a reddish brown. Now I'm applying that on the top. So brown and orange, it's a beautiful color combination to paint sunsets. Now using the same color, I'm going to add in some clouds to make the sky look more interesting. So first add in brown and blend that with yellow or orange, which will be the color you're using. Then with the same brush, add in some clouds. Okay, so once you have added them, dab your brush on a paper towel. Then very gently smudge it and give it a softer look. We can add a few more clouds. So with the same brush, I'm picking a little more brown and I'm adding some more clouds. So you can see I'm still retaining that lighter tone closer to the mountain where we are imagining the sun to be. And for the rest of the area, I'm adding more clouds, I'm adding medium tones. Okay, so keep on adding more clouds if you feel like, or if you're happy with the result, you can just leave it as it is. So this is how my sky has turned out. I'm very happy with the result. Now in the meantime, while the sky dries, we can start with the meadow. I already have some brown on my palette. Along with that, I will need some yellow ochre and Payne's grey. So first let me take out some paint onto my palette. This one is yellow ochre. Next I need Payne's grey. My yellow ochre is from Shinhan and Payne's grey is from Rembrandt. Okay, so we have the colors ready. Now we can start with the meadow. It's a small area, so I thought of going in directly with the paint without applying a coat of water. So the first color I'm picking here is yellow ochre. And I'm applying that along the horizon line. Go with a medium tone, don't make it too light. Okay, so that's the color I'm using. It is yellow ochre from Shinhan. Apply that along the horizon line and gradually go with permanent brown and fill up the remaining area. Start with a medium tone, then gradually towards the bottommost area, make it more darker. So along the horizon line, we have a medium tone of yellow ochre. Then towards the bottom, the color is more darker. Now with the same paint, I'm just adding few lines and some shapes to give it some texture. And maybe we can apply a much more darker tone at the bottom. So the color I'm using right now is a mix of Payne's grey and brown. You can also use burnt umber. Okay, so the base layer is ready. Now I'm going to keep this brush aside. And I'm going with my smaller brush. This one is size number 2. Our next task is to add some grassy pattern onto this wet background. So I'm starting by picking a bit of brown. And then I'm just going to add some freehand lines onto this background from the bottom towards the top. See that? So go with any of your smaller brush or a brush with a pointed tip and keep on adding some grassy lines. They can be longer at the bottom, and if you're adding them closer to the horizon, make them a bit shorter. And also don't use a darker tone over there. Okay, so just keep on pushing and pulling that paint and simply add some freehand lines like this. When I'm adding these grassy lines in the background, I'm not picking any new paint. I'm just making use of that leftover paint on my brush so that they won't look too prominent. But towards the bottom where we have that darker tones, you can add in more paint and you can add more darker lines. Okay, so let's keep on adding this grassy pattern and make our meadow look lush and thick. I think I have added enough on the top. We don't need much here. It is far away. We have to focus more on the bottommost area. So I'm picking more brown and I'm going to continue adding more lines at the bottom. Maybe you can use a darker tone by mixing some paints gray with brown, or you can also go with burnt umber as it is. Okay, so let's keep on adding those freehand lines at the bottom. You can see the color. It's pretty dark, and also I'm adding a lot more because at the bottom we want it to look like lush and thick. Right now your background might have dried a little. That's totally fine. You can continue adding those patterns. So the brush I'm using here is size number 2, and that is the reason why I'm able to add thin, crisp lines. Here is the brush. It has got a really nice pointed tip. So try to use a smaller brush or a brush with a pointed tip for this exercise so that you will get those lines very crisp and thin. I'm going to add a few more lines at the bottom. Right now the color I'm using is a mix of Payne's Grey and brown. I have only added a bit of Payne's Grey. It is not too dark, but depending on the color you have in the background, if you want to go for a much more darker tone, feel free to do that. Okay, I will add some more along the bottom line, and then we can go with the mountain. Okay, so that's how it has turned out. I'm very happy with the lines and the color and the texture. So let's take a short break and come back when this has dried completely. Okay, so the background has dried up. Next we can go with the mountain. First we are going to start with the area which is closer to the sun, and over there we have to introduce a lighter tone. I'm going to go with the lighter tone of cadmium yellow orange. Use the same yellow or orange you have used for the sky. Add a few drops of water and turn that into a lighter tone. Now I'm applying that over here. I have to make it even more lighter, so I'm adding more water. Okay, this looks fine. So go with a really light tone. Okay, now with the same brush, I'm going to pick brown. We can apply brown onto the remaining area. Go with a medium tone. So only when you're getting closer to the sun, you have to make your color lighter. The rest can be medium and darker tones. See that? I'm applying a medium tone of brown on either side. Next, I'm picking some yellowish orange. And I'm trying to blend brown with that yellowish color there. Let's clean the brush. And we can smudge it with a clean brush. So try to retain some of that lighter tone where you have the sun. And then gradually, when you are going away from the sun, make the color more darker. I'm picking a bit more yellowish orange and I'm trying to blend it. See that? So that's the area where we have the sun. Go with a clean brush and gently smudge it to give it a softer look. Okay, so that's how it has turned out. Now on to the rest of the area. We can add more brown and more darker tone. So I have completed that shape. We only have some area left at the bottom. Over there we have to introduce a detail, so we'll leave it as it is. But before that, I'm going to drop in some Payne's Grey onto either side to make it even more darker. Only onto either side. The rest remains as it is. Okay, so we have a lighter tone at the center where we have the sun, then some medium tones around it, and then towards the end we have some darker tone. Now we have to add paint along the horizon line. So I'm picking the same darker tone of brown. First let's fill in brown on that remaining area. Then we can introduce our detail. Okay, so it's a darker tone of brown and I'm filling in that remaining area. So once you have added paint along the horizon line, over the same brush, we are going to add a tiny detail. All you have to do is just keep on adding some teeny tiny lines using that same paint. So this will look like those grassy patterns far away. if you add the paint as a straight line, it will look a little weird. This way it will look more natural. So we're trying to show that grassy lines far away. So add your paint in a similar way. It is just some simple lines we are adding close to each other. It doesn't need to be perfectly shaped or anything. This is far away. So with your smaller brush or a medium brush, just keep on adding some lines close to each other. And that's all. See that? You can clearly see the difference. So whenever you're painting a meadow, never paint your horizon as a straight line. Always use this detail. It will instantly add a lot of difference to your painting. Now there is some small gaps in between. So I'm just adding paint and I'm filling them up. And I'm also smudging the paint. There's a lot of paint. I'm cleaning it and I'm dabbing it on a paper towel. Now with a clean dry brush, I will gently smudge this part. Okay, so that's how it has turned out. So actually at this point, we are done with our painting. But then if you want to enhance some of the details a bit more, you can go for a smaller brush and pick some more brown again. And then you can add some more lines along the horizon to give it a bit more fine look. But this step is completely optional. If you feel like it is looking beautiful already, you don't need to do this again. So the brush I'm using here is size number 2 and it has got a much better pointed tip than the other brush I was using. So I just thought of adding some more lines here to give it a better look. You can see the lines. They are much more thin and delicate. So just go with a darker tone of brown and add in some more lines using a smaller brush or a brush with a pointed tip. But just like I said earlier, this one is completely optional. You don't need to add them again if it's looking good enough. Okay, so I'm nearly done with that. But there is one more thing that I want to do with the same color and with the same brush. We're just adding a little more grassy pattern onto the meadow. But again, this step is also completely optional. Only if you feel it is necessary to add some more grassy pattern, you can go ahead with this step. Otherwise, you can just leave it the way it is. Okay, so the color I'm using right now is a darker brown. I have added some Payne's Grey with brown and I'm using a size number 2 round brush. And I'm simply adding some freehand lines, mostly at the bottom. See that? I'm adding them from the bottom towards the top. And I'm just adding some freehand curvy lines. I feel it looks more fuller and thicker now. Okay, so I'm adding the last few lines over here. And with that, we are done with our summer evening. If you want to add some birds on the sky, you could do that. You can add a small group of birds to enhance your painting. Alright, so that's all for the day. Now it's time to peel off the masking tape. And here's our gorgeous summer evening. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos.